Welcome to the Queensland preview. I'm COVID free. I'm down in Melbourne and I am Scoot, your host. And I've got Shane MJ Curlio up in Toowoomba and he looks fresh as and ready to get into the weekend's racing. How are you?
Yeah, going well. Going a lot better than you blokes down there anyway, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's still pretty fresh and lucky it's winter because there's nothing else to do anyway. Usually we'd be on holidays. And speaking of holidays, it looks like they've finally got their act together in Queensland. Alligator Blood. The inquiry's today, 6.5 months after the Magic Millions.
Slow and steady wins the race, they say, Scoot. So if that were true, Queensland would be 15 years ahead of the rest of the racing industry. But it's not true. Yes, DVD... David Van Dyke goes up today. Look, I think it'll be pretty straightforward. He'll get a fine. The horse will be disqualified, and that should be all she wrote. But I don't think Mr. Endres shares the same sentiment. Big hell. Yeah. Good luck to Alan anyway. Landmark case he's embarking on, he tells us, and it's going to shake up the racing industry. So
he's pretty vocal on Twitter, so no doubt he'll and he's a consumer of a lot of content, so he'll give us his two bobs worth in on the show and give us the latest information from the case. That's for sure. Speaking of carnival type racing and holidays, usually this time of year's Darwin Cup, a viewer or a fan text in or tweeted in and wanted you and I to have a look at the NT Derby. And the result on that race, there was a ride, one of Terry Treischl's runners. The horse ran, I think, fourth. It was called Call Me Legend. It sort of half missed the kick, bumped into a horse, got checked to the 1200 and ran on into fourth, beaten about 10.5 lengths. The winner was very emphatic, I thought. What did you think of the ride and the result of the NT Derby?
I thought that horse in question was probably race over for him at the start. If you watch the head on, the horse got twisted sideways from the start and sort of lost all chance of holding a spot. By the time he got going and settled into stride, it was maybe 4 back the fence, I think, by that stage. Somewhere there. It was well back along the fence anyway. And then just I suppose did get inconvenienced again. I don't know whether it's the fault of the ride. I think he would have settled closer if he could have. But like you say, it is that winner, that budget king. It travelled like a $1.50 chance in the run. It was never getting beat. It had the race won a long way out. You'd ever see him travel like that on the corner at Darwin? Well, they're normally all hanging the washing out like from about the 600.
Yeah.
And this thing was just travelling in behind. I've rarely have I seen one travel like that on the corner at Darwin, and it trotted up. So we won't knock Terry Treischl, and as you know, knocking jockeys is something I'm pretty good at. But
there's a couple of riders in Sydney in the metropolitan ranks, and I describe them as clothes flapping on the line, but particularly a jockey, I think, rode a winner last week. Rode a really good ride that fell in, that won by a nose last Saturday. So you don't have to be a genius to work out who that is or who that was. But let's get
hanging the washing out was an old trotting saying. I think when the drivers sit there with their reins and then they start doing that.
Yeah,
that's where that one come from.
Right, yeah. Anyway. Clothes flapping on the lines when they're coming up the home straight. It's a frightening proposition, and it's probably a good segue into race 2 at Doomben. The races at Doomben this weekend. The most talked about horse will be Kishikano in race 2. It's a 1,200-metre event. It comes up against a horse called Tooraloo from the D. Van Dyke yard, and Ryan Maloney is the usual rider on these horses for David. Be interesting to see what happens with the Alligator Blood case. But Kishikano 63.5 kilos, gets a 3 kilo claim. I saw you in a, I would say, heated discussion, but it was a little bit of an altercation on Twitter. And I'd be interested to see, what's your take on Kishikano and the booking of Alex Patsis? Do you think the big syndicates will take it on? And what do you think of the early market price?
This is altercation is very harsh too, by the way. It's just a question. I suppose you just try and get the sentiment of the crowd, and sometimes it pays to be contrarian. And this is pretty obvious, sort of find this horse off its first up win. Once again on rain-affected ground. It was dominant over horses that are, I wouldn't say legless, but Country Showgirl sort of ran into third into that race, and Fleet Doves ran second. So legless is harsh, but I suppose we've come out of the carnival time, and this horse has, missed those better 2-year-old races, and now just beating up on the locals last week. All's fair. Now we've seen Alex Pattis, and this is not a knock personally. This is just form analysis, right? So Alex Pattis has been gifted a couple of front running wins on a couple of horses recently. We seen one on Saturday with Bangers and Mayo at Ipswich on that inside Travelator, where it was basically a matter of jump your horse out of the gates, find the lead, find the fence, and just sit on it and hang on. The track will do the rest. So this is going to be a little bit more tactical. Now, Alex is going to find herself on some decent horses over the next few weeks. Maybe not decent horses is the right word. On horses that will start favourite, and she'll be well sought after. I see she's got a couple of decent rides here, so she's going to ride some horses that are going to be firm in the market. Is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
So this horse, it finds itself sort of, potentially Fleet Dove kicks forward from the gate, and Kishikano comes out and just sort of gets tightened to back to the fence a little bit, and she finds herself behind the leader or something like that, or 3 back the fence at worst. Yeah, there's going to be no favours given to her anyway. Put it that way, right? Is what I'm saying. So
yeah.
I'm marking this horse as going up in weight because I'm not giving any concession to the claim here, because of the apprentice, and obviously then you've got to try and find what can beat it, because it still looks like the best horse. But the David Van Dyke runners, the I'm not sure whether clear is the right word, but clearly has some ability. So yeah, I don't know. Like I got to race day last start with this horse. I think I tipped it on the show, made it my best bet, and then
in the email.
I got to race day and ummed at the price and let it go. And in retrospect, it won like $1.40 shot, $1.50 shot. So it's an interesting race. From a point of view of will they take a set against it, and what price is it a bet? And then what happens, what do horses like, Bellissimo and Michi, I think the Robert Heathcote horses have been going ordinary, to be honest. Rothfire was his highlight horse over the carnival. Well, whatever. It's one horse. His strike rate's been horrific, or hasn't been great since we had that little blow up here between trainers a couple of months ago. So he's one of the trainers that has fallen off a cliff with winning strike rates, and horses just aren't going as good as they were in previous preparations. And we touched on Toolaroo, sort of one that's potentially got more to give, off its win on debut, which was pretty impressive. So I think we're just a matter of wait and seeing what the market does.
So would you be alarmed at a drift, or it might drift to a backable price? Is that what you're saying?
Drifting to a backable price. I've got there'd be no alarms of whether this horse is not right or not trying. It's just a matter of a bigger syndicate taking a set against the jockey switch, and at SP 277 last time, does it get to $3 the fare?
So yeah, that's Nice little pearl. So a lot of the time, you got to figure out whether it's the horse has gone up unders, whether it's a syndicate taking on a negative jockey switch, or a bad map, or some sort of circumstantial map disadvantage, and that's going to sway you. And it's not always a case of drift and don't bet. Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the race. I'm more interested in the last 3 minutes of
truth time, as DK, the great Dan Kelly calls it, truth time.
Truth time. It's $2 now. Like, there's rain about and it's even money, right? So I'm not betting, because if it does get wet, DVD will probably scratch that second favourite on a wet track. Well, DVD loves scratching horses off heavy tracks. So if we do get the rain that they're forecast and the second favourite scratches and you're copping $1.60, $1.50 Kishikano, or you shoulder arms and move on to the next.
Yeah, 210, 270, 210 Kishikano, 270 Toolaroo, 850 Fleet Dove, Henkora Field $17, and Bellissimo Amici is similar quote. So 2-horse race, and we'll wait and see. The other race that we'll talk about is race 7 at Doomben, the 3-year-old race over 1,200 metres. Again, the rail's out half a metre, so expected to play typical Doomben, pending the weather. I thought, let's look at the market, and then I'll let you lead us off here. Mayozi 550, Say Haya 650, Mashani Spirit $7, Starla 7, Kalik 13, 11 Lady Brahmos, Better Reflection $13, Snow Zone 15, Bold Style, similar quote, Bold Hunter 19, and $34. Get Your Gear, Get Your Grey on $34, and better the rest. Had to read that one really carefully. Which horses stick out to you when you first look at that market? It looks like the market doesn't really know what to do with this race.
No, it looks like no one does. Just waiting to see, waiting for truth time. I think here this will. What are we betting now? 130 odd, I suppose. Early markets. Obviously, weather will play a part, and we should have a little bit better indication of the track and how it's playing by this stage. So there's a couple of things there to consider. Another thing too about this meeting is there might be a few horses that don't have a rider declared after Bailey Notiff broke his jaw Wednesday morning at track work. So that's going to be a loss to the jockey ranks.
You got a lot. He was pretty good, wasn't he?
No secret that a lot of my bets are on good trainer jockey combinations, and Golan and Notiff have been very profitable to our service. So it's he's going to be a loss over the next few months, and who Tony Golan chooses to replace him with, is getting their better rides will be an interesting one going forward. But in this race, like you said, the market doesn't know. What have we got? A $4.60 favourite, Mayozi. Probably a better gay. Doesn't have a lot of early speed though, so it's going to probably be back. Potentially 3 back the fence. It's going to get like a favourable running transit, but then obviously it's going to need the right ride and a bit of luck as well. From the 600 metres onwards, certainly got the ability to win it. The speed map will be interesting. Bulbs, there's a little bit of pace there. One that caught my eye last time, it was a win at Toowoomba, was Mashani Spirit. I spoke about.
It's obviously got ability. Like on debut, it beat Nidork by 4 lengths. Looking back as a 2-year-old, and then Pocket Pistol won again by 2 lengths at the Gold Coast in the 900 metre race, and then must have gone amiss or no good in the Bruce McLaughlin Group 3. Long layoff, come back, ran second at the Coast, another long layoff, and do you think the horse could finally be right?
Yeah, it wasn't like I said, it was only Toowoomba the other day, but you go back through. I think it was Devil's Marbles was the horse. Yeah, Devil's Marbles was the horse that ran third. Now, I'm not saying Devil's Marbles was a good thing beating it the other day at Ipswich. It was a benchmark 78 Saturday race, but it was one of those horses that actually made ground off the fence on the day. Like, it did run really well, and I thought both horses coming out of that Toowoomba run, could potentially be follows but Mashani Spirit was a pretty good win. So I thought it was a horse I could follow coming into this sort of race. The others have been up. There's a few others in this that have been up and going for a fair time, if that makes sense. So I sort of don't mind the idea of this horse sort of fresh on the scene. Obviously, my issue, and purely from a statistical analysis point of view, is the jock. Not an overly winning rider. Rides at about 5%. Jackson did go through a purple patch earlier in his apprenticeship when he was winning some metro races, and then had a bad fall and probably just lost his winning way a little bit since his return. So, like, winning at 5% is not a great winning strike rate, which is my concern, I suppose. We might just get a better price on the day and as we get closer to jump time. But certainly a horse that I could entertain in this race, there's no doubt about that. I think it's pretty even. Sort of the Garnet Taylor horses there, Bold Style, Bold Eos, they can go forward, and Mashani Spirit can probably go forward with them. And when they sort of settle, he won't be far off, and you'll sort of settle in the first 3 or 4. And I know it's easy to say, but it should be pretty straightforward for him if he can begin and just put himself in the first 4 and then take cover. He should find himself in a pretty good spot. You got a horse like, say, Haya, who we were on last start. It's 34 days between, but has had a barrier trial, which I like. After they've had 30 days between runs, I like that barrier trial / jump out in between. I think it's a negative, though, going from Bailey to Steph Thornton. The horse has never sort of been on speed. Hadn't been on speed for ages, and then that last start at Doomben. Got Tony Golan's probably the best trainer at identifying track bias and track patterns on the day and instructing riders to ride to it. And that day they put that horse right on speed, and the money was there for it as well. So that might have, that was the winning move. But, obviously Steph goes on. So it's a negative jockey switch for me. So, yeah, look, I suppose I'm looking for something that's fresh on the scene. And I think that maybe Mashani Spirit could be that horse. But
yeah, if I have a look at the puntingform.com.au data, there's little between this field. I think will be a case of best ride wins race, or, if Mashani Spirit can take the next step, it needs to, looking at the data. Yeah. But it is lightly raced, and, of course, early in its career, it showed lots of potential, but, clearly some issues. It looks like a real mess from the puntingform.com.au data. What you go?
Probably indicative of where we're headed to now for this time of year too in Queensland racing. We're going to come to some, particularly this Metropolitan Grade, we're going to get some really even races. It's going to come down to a bit of identifying those little outlying form. What do you call them? Form pointers, like maps particularly and track bias particularly. When you've got a field of horses where there might be 5 horses all around the same ability and going equally as well, it's just going to come down to the ride and the map and the being in the right part of the track at the right time. So not normally a lot of early action on these types of meetings where there's a lot of even races, and more so just trying to find some opportunities in the market as the day goes on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's probably the best way to attack out of season racing. Big deep fields, so it shapes as a really interesting card, and there should be a couple of good opportunities there. Curls, you got so there's a bit of weather up there at the moment. Your schedule for this week, you'll do Doomben early, and then you've got Bow Desert on the Saturday, and then Toowoomba Saturday night.
Yeah, been a bit of soul searching this week, Scooter. I can't remember the last good day I've had at Toowoomba. I'm going to change me handle to Gold Coast tips or anywhere but Toowoomba tips.
Yeah.
We can run second there. That's about it. But just the way the weather's looking over the weekend, Toowoomba will be the best betting track. The Gold Coast meeting it's normally on Saturday Arvo. It's gone to Bow Desert for the Bow Desert Cup. That track is not a great track at the best of times. It's a bad track when it's wet, but there is a pattern there on wet tracks, so we'll just watch the weather between now and then. There's Ipswich Friday as well. Won't be covering it race by race, but there's plenty of betting opportunities in the sunny coast always there on Sunday. So definitely covering Toowoomba. We'll cover Bow Desert, Doomben, obviously, with the worksheets, and then we'll just see where the betting opportunities come from there.
The full curly at $39.99 a week. It's worth the entertainment value alone on your Twitter page, and it's just so easy with the mailbag.com.au app, and you can just bet really late as the market starts to show its hand in all things racing in Queensland. Curls, keep your finger on the pulse up there. I know you're big on the politics and the news and all the stewards reports, so you are the first with all the fresh news. So can't wait to talk about Alligator Blood and what that means up in Queensland. So next time I talk to you, we'll probably be answering a tweet from Alan Enders.
I hope not. I'm cheering Alan.
Good luck on
I'm cheering Alan. I want him to go his hardest. Great narrative. You know, it's better than reading that Chris Waller's excited about training Humidor. Like, it's much better narrative listening to Alan Enders fight his way through the Alligator Blood saga. Narrative, honestly. Just let us bet.
Hopefully, it's an issue for Mitch Beer at the moment, getting horses from Victoria into New South Wales. And, yeah, again, I'm not sure what's going to happen to the Everest field with no horses there either. But that's the story for another day. Can't wait to talk to you next week for next week's show, Curls. And good luck. And I'll be surprised if Kishikano didn't win myself. But if you're after the free best bets, jump on the mailbag.com.au and subscribe to our database there, and you'll get the best around the grounds from the lads and a couple of sports tips. You get the Sportsman's Double tips for free.
Fantastic.
See you, mate.
Thanks mate. Bye-bye.